Good evening and welcome to the Southbridge Town Council meeting of Monday, November 2nd, 2020 at 7 p.m. This meeting is being held via remote participation. I'm calling the meeting to order pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18. The Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town Council is being conducted via remote participation only. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in this order. A reminder that persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by watching Southbridge Cable Access Channel 192 or by the remote information noted below. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website at www.ci.southbridge.ma.us as soon as we are able to. A roll call vote is required for all votes taken under this order. At this time, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Councillor Adams.
Present.
Councillor Catrona.
Present.
Councillor Daniel.
Present.
Councillor Dow. Councillor Dow.
Present.
Councillor Jovan.
Present.
Right. Councillor Lazo.
Present.
Councillor Marquetti.
Present.
Councillor Ryan.
Present.
And Councillor Steves.
Present.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Item 3, consider and accept the Town Council meeting minutes of Monday, October 19th, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Well, Council Adams moved it, Council Steve second. Do I have any errors, corrections, or omissions? Any? I don't see anybody raising their hand. Council Ryan, are you all set?
I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
All right. Anybody else? Council Steve?
Just one quick one. I think under item number 5, subsection B, shouldn't the ENS references be EMS? I'm thinking something else. There's 2 of them.
That was the, it's not EMS, it's the site for the dispensary site. It's not EMS though. What was it? Council Adams, do you know what that site is called? The abbreviation for that? The what?
Isn't the JBC?
EDC, right?
Right. Okay. Emergency
EDC.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone else have any errors, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, roll call to approve as amended.
Councillor Adams.
Yes.
Councillor Catrona.
Yes.
Councillor Daniel.
Yes.
Councillor Dow.
Yes.
Councillor Jovan.
Yes.
Councillor Lazo.
Yes.
Councillor Marquetti.
Yes.
Councillor Ryan.
Yes.
And Councillor Steves.
Yes.
Thank you. Subcommittee reports, General Government Council, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we had a meeting last Monday. Item numbers 11 to 15 were on our agenda. And we are still discussing the wetlands bylaw, which got held over because Concom didn't meet. They are meeting this Thursday. So we'll probably have at our next meeting agenda, which is tentatively settled for next Monday at this point. I will raise the specific issues when we get to those items.
Thank you, Council. Department of Public Works, Council Marquetti.
Thank you. We didn't have any meetings. We don't have any meetings scheduled at this time. I am expecting a meeting towards the end of the month, though, to discuss the the pavement management study. Thank you.
Received. Thank you. Education and Human Services, Council Patron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No meetings have been held. I do have a meeting scheduled for Tuesday, November 10th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Plan and Development, Council Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I did not have a meeting since our last town council meeting, and our next scheduled subcommittee meeting will be November 9th at 6 p.m. remote. Thank you.
Thank you. Protection of Persons Property, Council Lazo.
No report at this time, Mr. Chairman, but we do have a meeting scheduled. November 10th originally was at 6:30, but after talking to the front office, we moved it to 7 for the courtesy to the Education and Human Services that will go before us. So we're November 10th, 7 o'clock.
Thank you. Under special committee reports tonight, we have a COVID-19 public health and safety briefing. We have Mr. Pelletier here, as well as I believe thought I saw Chief Whitson on, but I guess he's off. So Pelletier, oh yeah, the chief is here as well. So I guess we'll start with Chief Whitson. Are you on?
Yeah,
you want to just give us a brief update about the on the incident command system and the Facebook Live, I guess, that you have?
Sure, if I could, through you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everybody. We had a Facebook Live meeting last week, and we had about 2,500 residents that tuned in to watch. We discussed Halloween, which I'll elaborate on that in a second. But our numbers are starting to tick up again, so we're, again, mask at the station, minimal contact to the public, anything that we can avoid going into buildings, out of buildings. As far as the incident command, we don't have another date set up, I believe, Mr. Chair. Am I correct with that? At this time, we don't have another date.
I believe we set a date, but it's in 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks away then, okay. So as of that, I mean, it's operations, normal operations for us. But again, unfortunately, we're starting to revert back to that, trying to minimize contact with our citizens, which is not a way that we want to police, but with the way things are going right now, that's what we're forced to do. As far as Halloween goes, and because of the pandemic, I'm very satisfied with the way things worked out. We only had about half of the population that we usually get for trick or treat. There are a lot of people complaining that they didn't have enough kids at their doors. Usually we get a lot of participation in Southbridge, but again, we gave parents that option. If you didn't feel safe, you could stay home, and about half of them chose to do that. But at least the parents had the option to make their own decision on that. So as far as that, Mr. Chairman, I don't really have much else on the EOC. I know Mr. Pelletier is on this meeting, and he has the current numbers, so I'll leave that to him. Unless there's any questions, of course.
Any questions for the chief? Seeing
Chair?
none. Yeah, Council Ryan.
I have a question for Mr. Pelletier, unless he's about to speak.
He's about to speak. If you want to hold on for a second.
I'll hold on. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Pelletier?
Good evening. As of this morning, I reported 252 cases. We had 4 over the weekend. It was a busy weekend. I can also tell you right now, I was just on Maven. I spent the last 2 hours doing case follow-up. And I will be reporting on 3 more cases tomorrow, minimally 3 that have already appeared. The schools have announced 2 cases within the school. They sent that out on the all-call today. One of the cases is not significant. It's an out-of-town student, and he has been in isolation since, because of an event at the house he lives at, has been in isolation since prior to it being a threat to the town of Southbridge. The other case, we have Margot and Karen Checker very closely, and I think we got a real good grip on that one. The school is dealing with all the follow-ups resulting from school contacts, and I have just gotten off the phone. It was a very lengthy one because she's apparently a very friendly student here in town. Got a lot of friends. So I just got off the phone with that one, and I feel like I've got a really good grip on that one. identified all of the close contacts, and I have already contacted all of them. So I think we're in good shape with the schools. The schools have taken additional steps on their part, but Margot or Dr. Villar can be more specific on that. There was a bereavement event I reported just about 2 weeks ago. I believe we will be off quarantine period on that on the 5th. I have managed to find and identify 33% of the attendees of that. I consider all of the attendees who had any physical contact with this person to be close contacts. Very difficult to follow up on these things because the only thing I have to work off of is the guest book. I have, because of this event though, I have issued an order to all of the funeral homes that they must keep a going list of the attendees and their contact numbers so that we can much quicker get on the follow-up and try to curtail any events. I will say happily, of the 33%, nobody has indicated any symptoms. Most of the 33% have tested, and they have all shown back negative. I'll put an asterisk on that. You can show positive up to 14 days after, and these are 3 to 5 day tests, but at least 80% of cases that are going to get it within the first 3 to 5 days. So I'm very optimistic that the person who the positive contact on this event was aware enough to have the mask on, to keep the mask on, and to keep his contact with people reasonable. Today, the governor issued orders number 53, 54, and 55. Probably about 12 pages of orders, but the big things that come out of it are, as of Friday at midnight, all sites serving food or alcohol shall end service at 9:30. They can do takeout after 9:30, but no more seating in the place, no more serving people who are seated. And people who are seated at 9:30 supposedly have to get up and leave. Masks at all time in public places, in public or in public places where the public has access. It used to be masks must be worn where social distancing could not be maintained. It's been tightened up a little bit, and anytime that you are not in your private zone, be your car, your house, or whatever, you must be wearing a mask. Gatherings at private property remain at 10 indoors and 25 outdoors, but they must end by 9:30. Gatherings on public property remain at 25 indoors, 50 outdoors, unless you're a step 2 community, which Southbridge is, where you could have 100, but the events must end at 9:30. So all of our restaurants, and I know one that regularly serves after 9:30, they will have to cease serving and not have people in the place after 9:30. Big change is that if you are an employee, and you choose not to wear the mask because of a medical, the employer or the public health has the right to go in and say, we need documentation of your medical. Up to now, that has been HIPAA and very strongly protected. Mr. Baker feels that if we can get a handle on some of these freebies, that we can probably curtail this thing. I saw his presentation this afternoon, and it seems like he is just frustrated with the people who have reached their limits, and I empathize with the people who reach their limits, but it seems like he's very frustrated with them for just letting their guard down. Seems to think that, and this is backed by the Department of Public Health, but he seems to think that the recent spike, Massachusetts has had 8 consecutive days with over 1,000 cases. He seems to attribute that to just letting down your guard, attending big events without protection, things like that. So he's trying to, looks like he's trying to take a step backwards without, or minimizing the harm that would do to the businesses. So he's really appealing to people to do what's right. Questions?
Councilor Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Andy, in one of your emails you sent us last week, you highlighted the fact that there were some cases that seemed to be reoccurring cases of COVID, correct? How many cases in Southbridge total have been reoccurring cases?
Well, I would base the reoccurring cases on old numbers. The state has a Maven system that reports cases by 9-digit numbers. We are currently in the 108s, and I recently got a 104, which would have put us somewhere around April, May. Just over the weekend, I got a 104 and a 105. So that tells me that they are a old case that reoccurred, or for some reason re-showed up. So I've got since 10/15. Let's go back to 10/15. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 6 cases that are between 103 and 105. So those would be anywhere from April to June-ish.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Councilor Steves?
Thank you. Just to clarify what Councilor
Go ahead,
Ryan,
Councilor
can you hear me? I'm sorry. To clarify a little bit of what Councilor Ryan just asked about, does that mean that these cases are reinfections of the same people, or they're just data errors in your system?
They are not data errors in my system, because the 104, I have a current quarantine date or a event date of 10/27. So it's a recent case. It was a recent positive.
Okay.
Whether I can't really get into the medical end of it. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
I don't know if this stuff stays in your system for 5,000 years or if it stays for 30 days. I'm not going to say it's a false positive by any stretch. These cases are confirmed, and they're all recent dates of confirmation.
Okay. How does this the current orders, the governor's orders, affect either the Christmas parade and tree lighting or the high school's bonfire, if they're even going to hold it this year?
Well, Mr. McCall had asked me for my comments on the tree lighting this year. And I responded with an event can be held outside as long as we are confident, because we're a low risk community. We are yellow. We have remained yellow, thank God, consistently, because we've been on the edge a few times. But
the last map I saw showed red.
Excuse me?
The last map I saw showed red.
Last map I saw showed yellow. I showed 15 cases.
Yeah, we were yellow, Councilor Steves.
Yeah, yellow? Okay, good.
Okay, yeah, it takes us 19 cases to flip the red. We had 15. So my response to Mr. McCall was that if the organizer feels they can hold the event to 100 people, they can properly social distance, and they can keep masks on through the whole event. And it's really on the organizers to come up with a plan on how to do it. I would not put a stop to it.
Okay. Have the schools approached you about doing a bonfire? Because we would have to approve their bonfire permits like either this meeting or the next at the very latest. They normally send it to us like now.
Well, there's no Thanksgiving. I'll answer that. Councilor Steves, there's no Thanksgiving game this year, so
yeah, I know that.
I don't think we would fire. So there's no rally. So that would be part of the rally and the pep rally for a football game. So I don't on a bonfire.
Okay, that's fine.
Councilor Lazo, I know you had your hand up, but you're just going to say the same thing? Okay, thank you. Do you have anything further, Councilor Steves?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Any other questions from anybody else? Just one follow-up question, Andy, that I have for you. In regards to when you get a positive case and it comes over to you for positive and you do your paperwork and your follow-up, is there any documentation or of those that come to the town that are said positive? Do you data as to whether they're symptomatic or asymptomatic? And how does that reflect when you say recovered? Just can you walk us through that process a little bit?
Part of my follow-up, I've got maybe a 30 to 40 question set of questionnaires that I have to ask of every case. One of them is a clinical questionnaire, which goes through all of the symptoms that they possibly could have had. I go very detailed with the symptoms. I go very detailed with the people they may have had close contact with. I just talked myself out of your question. What was your question? I'm sorry.
So my question is, of those that come over positive to the town, how many show symptoms or any symptoms at all, or are just asymptomatic?
Many of them are asymptomatic. They get tested because they know they've had an exposure or because their work requires them to get tested periodically. So many of them are asymptomatic.
Do you run any statistics on that on a community basis? So, because, you have communities that are sitting there going, oh, we got all these cases. But I do understand that there are cases, but and my personal goal as a community leader is to make sure that we stay as safe as we can. But when you have the media and politicians saying how many cases you have, and I don't want to minimize them, but given all the testing that is done, what is the sense on those that are asymptomatic and wouldn't even know because of having to go get a test?
If I were to throw a number out there, I would say anywhere from 40 to 50% don't even know that there's any problem until they get tested. They don't are asymptomatic.
Okay.
You asked about, how do I close a case and everything? A case is right now, current knowledge, if you will, is that you will become symptomatic within that you will get the disease within 3 to 5 days of exposure, that you are contagious 2 days before you get symptoms, if you ever get symptoms, and that you are isolated, meaning you are only contagious for a run of 10 days from your first symptoms. So I call cases at the end of I call cases at the beginning, find out what situation put them into testing. And then at the end, I call the case again, have another interview with them, an exit interview, basically asking about symptoms. Did they ever get symptoms? How do they feel recently? And if they've been fever-free, symptom-free for 48 hours, I release them and I close the case.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? All right. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Chairman's announcements. I don't have any announcements this evening because I'm sure I'm going to leave people saying to get out and vote tomorrow to my other fellow councilors that state that pretty regularly when it comes to election time. So I will save that for them to articulate their thoughts on voting and that. But thank you again to Andy and the chief for the work on the COVID-19 as we continue to make sure we stay safe in our community. I'll turn it over to the town manager for town manager announcements. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too would remind everybody to vote tomorrow, and I'll leave it for the rest of the councilors to mention that in their closing remarks. I wanted to update the council and let them know that the pole vault mat has since found a home, and it's going to be going to the Havel school system. So we did recoup some money on that. I will be getting $5,000 from the Havel Public Schools for the pole vault mat, which you recently declared as surplus property. I believe I've sent out an email, maybe two, to just remind the council I do have, or we do have an opening on the Worcester Regional Transportation Authority Advisory Board. They're looking for someone for the community to serve. If anybody has questions, please follow up with me offline. I did last week receive a letter from Chief Woodson, who's on the line, to Chief Normandin, recognizing the outstanding efforts of some of our first responders. With the chief's indulgence, I'll do a summary of the letter and he can comment afterwards. But on October 20th last week, there was a motor vehicle accident that his officers responded to. It was initially Sergeant Salisbury, and he found the driver that was unresponsive. He immediately treated that individual for an overdose. Officer Dean Bruno arrived on scene to assist. Shortly after that, after administering Narcan, the person did come to and it wound up ensuing into a violent struggle with the officers present. Additional officers Suarez and Rodriguez arrived along to assist, as well as firefighters Peretti and Franklin. They all started with life-saving efforts, and that's when the violent struggle ensued. Additional officers and firefighters did arrive on scene. One of the officers tried to discharge his taser, which was ineffective. With the efforts of all on board, they were able to eventually subdue the individual and put him in handcuffs. One officer was bitten, and based upon all of that, Chief Woodson wanted to recognize and commend Sergeant Salisbury, Officer Bruno, Officer Suarez, Firefighter Peretti, Firefighter Franklin for their integral role in gaining control of the subject, and also recognize the efforts of Officer Bergeron Panacio, Fire Lieutenant Kalanian, and Firefighter Strupa, as well as Firefighter Matthews for their assistance during that event. And I would just also recognize their efforts on the behalf of Southbridge and keep one another safe and looking out for their fellow first responders. And Chief, I don't know if you wanted to jump in on this.
If I could quickly through you, Mr. Chair, I just got to say in 2020, if I've heard a million times and I don't agree with it, but this is what you signed up for when you become a police officer. You get punched, kicked, spit on, shot at. Every single night of the week, things like this are happening around the country. But in our community, more specifically, last week, Sergeant Salisbury first on scene, a very, very violent confrontation with a very, very dangerous person. And it took 3 police officers, including several rounds of tasing, did nothing to this man. And if it wasn't for Firefighter Peretti and Franklin, and they all did a great job, but the 2 firefighters, they did not sign up for this. As cops, we expect it, we know it, we deal with it. It's what we're passionate about. But firefighters, they could have easily just stood. They were up there in an ambulance, in a rig. They had a stretcher, and they were ready to help out for the medical issues that this person was having. But they chose to jump right in and get muddy with us. And I got to tell you, I went up to the hospital and spoke to all these gentlemen, and they were all covered in blood and spit from this person. It was a very violent confrontation that went on for several minutes. And that's why I went out of my way to address it. And thank you for bringing it up tonight, Mr. Town Manager. Great work. And we're very lucky to have men and women like this in our community on the police and the fire side of the house.
Thank you, Chief Woodson. Also, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want to make the council aware. I will be coming to them probably at the next meeting to look for special counsel services with regard to our cable contract. We've been working towards to start the renegotiations, and I was planning to schedule a cable hearing or a public hearing for an assessment of needs. I've been informed by our current counsel that they may not be able to represent us on this particular matter. So I will be coming forward with some recommendations for new counsel to go forward on that particular matter. I've also been contacted this week by the Department of Environmental Protection within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And they wanted me to be aware of the Northeast Energy natural gas liquefaction facility that's being proposed at 314 Southbridge Street in Charlton. They were making me aware that they exceed the threshold for non-major comprehensive approval of a permit, so that their air permit application is currently under review, and therefore Mass DEP will be seeking to provide notification to key stakeholders in both Charlton and Southbridge, which means they're going to be setting up some type of hearing within the coming weeks for stakeholders here in town to comment on the proposed project and the opportunity to comment, as well as on the draft permit. I will keep the council as well as the residents informed about the developments with that site. I also have from Peg Dean, who is our CDBG coordinator, wanted me to make the following announcement, that there will be a public hearing held by a go-to meeting to discuss the Community Block Development Grant FY21, the proposed application activity for the public hearing immediately FY1920 CDBG grant year on Thursday, November 19th at 6:30 p.m. Anyone interested in learning about the Community Development Block Grant Program and how these funds are being leveraged in Southbridge, please check the Southbridge calendar posting on the website for the GoToMeeting ID and call-in information to participate. So that we will make sure that that's posted on the website. And at this time, Mr. Chairman, that are all the announcements that I have.
Councilor Steves?
Yeah, I've got a quick question through you to the town manager. A second ago, you mentioned about the cable contract. I thought we had voted for a special attorney that we had previously negotiated cable. Are you referring to that person cannot work with us, or our regular town attorney?
So it's my understanding when I arrived, we had special counsel for that particular contract. I had started some initial conversations with that attorney, and he contacted me last week saying that he could no longer represent the town for certain reasons, which would germane to the conversation he and I had. But as a result of that, he's made some recommendations on counsel, and there are some other counsels out or law firms out there that do offer those services. So I'm going to look at a couple of those and make a recommendation to council as someone to pick up and go forward as we try and get this resolved.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Presentations. Tonight we have 2 presentations of council. The first one, I'll turn this over to the town manager for an introduction. It's Green Path Establishment Update. Joseph Stevens, the business owner. Mr. Town Manager.
Yes, again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the last week or so, I've made an effort to meet each one of the 4 establishments or organizations that have entered into host agreements with the town of Southbridge to learn a little bit more about their operations and get an understanding where they were in the process and their timeline to being open in the community. And as I've met each one of them, several have expressed the interest to come before the council and introduce themselves and give you an individual update. Before us this evening is Joseph Stevens. I've worked with Mr. Stevens and his attorney, Mr. Adamopoulos. We met last week, and he wanted to come in this evening, as I said, to introduce himself, to give you a little bit of an update about the Green Path, which will be located here on Main Street in the center section of Southbridge. At this point, Mr. Chairman, I would defer to Mr. Stevens for the introduction and presentation.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Stevens. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. Sorry it has to be in this situation, but either way, it's a pleasure to have met every last one of you. I currently am a resident of Southbridge. Just to give you my history, I've been here for about 3.5 years. I'm actually an Iraqi war veteran as well, combat veteran of 2003. And like Mr. McCullough said, the location is going to be on 345 Main Street. At this point, right now, we have secured a location, and the host agreement is in place. And currently, provisional license should be in hand by 11/19. I was advised by my attorney. And once that has been put in place, I will be able to work with Mr. Rumsey and the planning board to work towards getting a special permit to move forward. Any questions at all? I know that was brief, but if you have any questions.
Questions? Mr. Stevens, did you want to talk about a little bit about what your plans are for the building itself or anything like that? I know you have a presentation in the packet.
Yes, as far as I wish I could share my screen, but I don't see the option to actually do that. I want to give a nice presentation to you guys.
I can allow you to do that if you'd like.
Sure.
Hold on one second. Okay. Oh, let's see. Yes. Does that work? Hold on. Did that work for you? There you go.
Okay. Are you guys seeing my screen at this time?
Yes.
Okay. So and you guys are seeing exactly what I'm saying. This is basically an outline of the floor plan.
Yes.
Oh, I think I just did something else here. My apologies. This is the location that you are familiar with it. This is the old village photo here. And basically, this is what we're proposing that will be the green path location, okay? Bear with me. This is new to me. Okay, so we're back up now. So the floor plan itself, as you can see, is the entranceway, and you guys can see my cursor here, correct?
Yes.
Okay, the entranceway will be here to the right, security area. People will come into this area, will get checked in. And if you guys want to stop me at any time, ask me questions about the facility, by all means, please ask me or stop to ask. As they come in, there is a really nice display that we'll have on the walls. There are back monitors here to basically that will allow people to see exactly what's there. There's an audio visual display that will take place on the wall. In this area here, again, this is an overhead look of what we have. These are the registered areas here. This is just a locked door. There will be overhead cameras in various locations throughout the building. I think it was over probably 30 something odd cameras that we'll have in this facility. The entranceway to walk around. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll just continue on. I thought someone was trying to speak. And this would be a workspace area that you actually see here. And as you go back, this is the bathrooms are in the back areas there. There is a office area. There's a huddle room location as well. And there's a kind of like a kitchenette area to allow people to have their lunches and stuff like that where they can sit and do what they need to do. I'll move on and try to make this as fast and painless as possible. To some exterior rendering. Basically, this is what you'll see from the outside of the building. This is what we're hoping to build. As you look through the window, you can see on the white wall in the background, green path, as well as the sign itself will basically display what is there. The windows themselves are pop-outs. We can change those throughout the season, throughout the month, whatever we want to put. We have an interior designer that will come in and design the windows as we, see fit, whether it be a holiday, whether it be something that's going to be compatible with, the town. Just something to give that same, town look, the country look of the town. This is an oblique view of what you will see. This will be coming downhill from the gas station in town. A little close up of what you would see, and to give you some real life imaging of what's there. Just some more internal rendering of the building. When we first walk in, to the right and to the left, there are displays that are there. And as you look at the back wall, you see the big triangles that are there. It is a locked area. You can't, get to that area. And my idea was designed when I came up with it was to basically give a design that people could see, something that's going to be comforting, and at the same time, it's not going to be a rundown look and something that's, very modern and kind of gives that new look to the town, that state-of-the-art look. These are other views of different locations. As you walk over to the left side, kind of look back over towards the right, you can see that wall with the display that is there, and it gives you an idea of the display cases. This is basically standing right in the middle, right at the, over on the other wall that you were just looking at. And you can look to your left and you can see exactly what is going on as well. This is standing behind the register, looking straight back. The door in the middle is the security door with a one-way glass. Individuals that will be behind that door are your security team. The door to the left is the entrance door. These doors are on a scan system. to where you basically you'll be scanned in. And the door to the right, basically you'll be scanned out as well too. This is some rendering of the workplace area. In the back room, of course, the public won't have access to this, but just to let you know that this is an idea of what we're looking for. It's a comfort area for the workers to work. It's an open concept of everything is wide open, and the creation of just visually looking like just a state-of-the-art location. Just basically coming down a little bit further, you can see the kitchenette. Turn to your left, there's an office area of a workspace of 4 chairs that are in that area. And if you go down a little further to the right, there's the huddle room for meetings and other locations. There's a translucent glass where any meetings that will be taking place in that room. People can basically see what exactly is going on, what we do, and how we do it. More rendering of the workplace area, that open glass that you can see through the other area. Again, we designed access for running water in that workplace area. There's a safety station that'll be in there as well. There is a caged in area basically that will be locked in for overflow of supplies and all of that. It's another view looking towards the front of the building. There's a glass, basically, it's a plexiglass you can basically see through into the office area. And that's pretty much what we have for now. Okay.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just before I begin, I just want to make clear, I do work for a marijuana establishment. It is not this one. I just want to put that out there because I don't want any confusion. But I do have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Stevenson, because I do work in the industry. I have questions about your work area. Are you planning to package or a trim product on site as well?
I'm sorry, what was that again, sir?
I was asking about the workstation areas, the metal tables.
Yes.
I was wondering, are you planning on packaging and trimming the product on site?
No. Everything that'll come to us, we are a retail location. So everything that will come to us will be from locations that we will have purchased from other growers.
Okay. That was my only question, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Steves, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question actually was, looking at this facility, I was curious about, are you planning on having your deliveries come in through the front door or the back door?
Back door.
Back door, okay. Because I was curious, are you planning on having, I'm assuming that you'll need some sort of trucks to do it, unless you're planning on using vans, I guess. But that back parking lot is very popularly used. There's a lot of people that will park there pretty much consistently because they live in the neighboring apartments and so forth. So I just thought you need to take into account the traffic flow that goes through that back parking lot. That might be an issue.
Those things have been taken into consideration. The parking lot is actually owned by the gentleman that owns the lady that owns the building. And once the business is up and running, that access will not be allowed.
A lot of that parking lot is owned by the town. It's the Edwards parking lot.
No.
I don't know where her borderline, her property line might be. So there might be a section that is hers, but no, wait a minute.
No.
I'm thinking of the wrong building.
The wrong parking lot.
Yeah, I was thinking of the wrong parking lot. You're right. Thank you.
Okay, that's okay. I don't know how to switch back to the other screen here. Let me see here. Oh, there it is. Are there any other questions at all? Yes,
Yes.
sir. Mr. Adams.
First of all, go ahead, Councilor Lazo. I think you.
Can I go?
Go ahead, Councilor Lazo. I'm trying to get back to my screen here. Go ahead, Councilor Lazo.
Oh, Just a quick comment. I think the location is a good location. I think the back parking lot is a delivery area for the back of that building. Not only that, there's a sign shop that's been in a while. It has a back garage to it. It's a business area, and the area for your deliveries is actually a good setup. I think the parking lot that the previous council was talking about was the central, not the Central Street, but the parking lot behind the fire station. But I think this location, I think, is a good location. I like your layout, and I like your deliveries in the back of the building. I think it'll service the downtown area. This building is perfect for servicing your business as well as you servicing the needs of the community. I looking forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lazo. I do as well.
Thank you. Any other questions, Council Adams? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. First of all, Mr. Stevens, I appreciate you coming to the town council and giving a presentation. The fact that you actually did this, and there's been a couple organizations or businesses that have done the same thing and have been very successful in starting up their businesses. And the fact that you gave us an ability to take a look at what a conceptual design would look like through a 3D process. So I do want to say thank you for that. I would ask if you had some time or send it to the town manager if we can get a soft copy. Obviously, we don't need any of this presentation. We don't need any security plans. That's not our purview or anything like that. That's the chief's. But that way we can share business growth within our community through social media or just plain question and answer periods that we do have with the residents. And lastly, I just want to say thank you for your service. I read your bio. Pretty impressive. And I just want to say thank you again for all that you've done so far. And again, coming to the town council. And lastly, I will save any questions for the planning board process. That's what they're there for, as far as where the deliveries need to be and all that kind of stuff, because there is a requirement where the deliveries have to go and they can't go through the front door. So, but I'll let the planning board do their job. Thank you, Mr. Stevens.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Steve?
Hi again. Thank you. Just a quick question also. Do you have a rough, you mentioned your provisional licensing. Do you have a rough timeline of when you're likely to be open? How many employees are you likely to have?
I'm looking anywhere between 10 to 15, you know, and I want to do more, but it'll depend on a lot of different things. We're anticipating a soft open. We don't want to just open the doors to the public so everyone will just go crazy. You know, it'll be by appointment. They'll have to call us to set up, you know, something where they can come in and purchase, you know, what they're looking for. But to answer your question, we're looking from anywhere between 10 to 15 employees. We're reaching for the 20 marker.
Okay. Do you already have dates for planning board yet?
I do not. I do not have dates yet for planning board.
Okay. Okay. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. T.
Council Marquetti?
Thank you. I'm really glad to see this happening, but I'm just a little confused. I thought the last meeting subcommittee level at this location was changing or something. So don't get me wrong. I'm glad you're coming in, but I don't know what happened there. Something happened. I thought that this location was not going to happen, but I'm glad it is. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Council Marquetti. I'm not aware of any conversation that locations were changing that I was aware of, but I might be out of the loop on that. Go ahead, Council Ryan.
To Mr. Councilor Marquetti's point, I think he might be thinking of Green Meadows. I know the location for Green Meadows changed, didn't it?
That changed, yeah, but it was some time ago that
yeah. So. That's the only one I know of that changed.
Well, that's fine. I'm glad it's opening, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If it was going to change, it would have to come through Gen Gov, and it never has. So
right, correct. All right. Any other comments, questions? All right, Mr. Stevens, thank you very much for being here this evening, and we look forward to working with you as you open up your venture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Again, thank you all.
Item next presentation is the curbside advisory presentation led by Counselor David Adams and his group that has been for the new counselors that are here. About approximately, I think, 2 years ago when I first got on council, we were faced with a lawsuit that we had between Casella regarding the curbside collection in the town of Southbridge, and Casella's desire at that time to not honor their commitment for curbside collection. As we're all aware, the town participated in that suit and came to an agreement in which we negotiated 5.5 years of additional curbside collection. And at that time, the council took it upon themselves to work in conjunction with a group to research how we might come out of that process with Casella, because it was part of their contract to provide the free trash pickup. And at some point, we're going to have to take it on. And rather than wait and kick the can down the road, we took an aggressive approach led by Councilor Adams, Councilor Steves at that time. And then Mr. Marquetti was on that group, and I'm not sure who else was on that group, but they undertook looking at that, and we were awaiting their report to see what our options may be so that we can turn it over to the town manager and work with the council to come up with the best plan for the residents of Southbridge. So with that, I will turn this over to Councilor Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you allow me to be the presenter?
Sure. Give me a second.
All right.
1 second here. Okay, you should be all set.
All right. Okay, everybody can see that, I hope. Let's see if I can minimize this real quick.
There you go.
All right, now I got to get it to. All right, there we go. Okay, please bear with me while we go through this, and I can't see anybody's screen. So if you have a question, please, there we go, I can see you again. Please go ahead and raise your hand or just interrupt me. So first of all, I want to thank the chair, who was the chair back in 2018. I want to thank Councilor Marquetti as well for approaching me at a time when we knew Casella, there were some issues going on with Casella, and allowing us to properly plan for our future when it came to curbside collections. I want to thank Mr. Pelletier and all those involved and the residents that were involved in this process. So let's see here. All right. So the first thing we see is establishment, mission statement, committee members, the dates that we met, regulations and guidelines, the sources that we went through, our current curbside collection contract and the multiple options that we have come up with, and transfer station as well throughout these 30 some odd slides. So I'll try to make it quick, but I'll try to make it thorough as well. So first of all, we were established, agenda item 19 from January 14, 2019 town council meeting, where it was voted 6-1, vote to approve the establishment of the curbside advisory committee. Now, this talked about everybody who was required to be on it, and it took us till June 30th, 2020, and I believe the council chair extended us out until we received a new town manager, and we can catch him up to speed on the happenings. We, as a committee, we went ahead and set up our mission statement. That was one of the first things we did. So Curbside Advisory Committee's mission is to research, advise, and prepare the town council and residents of Southbridge future options for solid waste in order for our community to properly plan for eventual termination of the current curbside collection of 2024, March of 2024. These are the committee members. Again, I want to say thank you to all of them because they go from counselors to subject matter experts, Mr. Pelletier, to regular residents who want to be partake in this from all walks of life, and those citizens who partook as well during our meetings. I want to say thank you to them. These were our meeting dates. We met about 13 times, and sometimes we met during twice a month, and sometimes we gapped a month. All depended on what information flow we had. So these are some of the regulations, the guidelines that we went off of, from enterprise funds, all the was Mass General laws, the town bylaws, to the Board of Health code and regulations. Some of our sources that we reached out to, from Casella to DHCD, our own town employees, Waste Zero, our coordinator, Southbridge, multiple towns that we talked to. One we did not add in here, or did not add in here, was Charlton as well. So I want to talk about the current curbside collection. Most of us already know, but this is for more so for the residents that are out there. Our contract ends March 31st, 2024. And that was for the settlement agreement approved by the town council on November 5th of 2018. That was an 8-0 vote on that one. Provides curbside collection to 7,200 residential municipality buildings. That includes school buildings. You'll see that a few times. This includes single-family homes up to 6 families. It does not include commercial properties as well, but it does take into account home offices as well. Estimated right now, it's about $1.2 to $1.6 million annually cost for the curbside collection. All right. Some of these guidelines that we have is the fact that weekly we get solid waste pickup, and bi-weekly we receive recycling. When it comes to solid waste, regular trash, we have about 4,300 tons that we put away annually, or we give to take out of our town. About a ton and a half annually of recycled goods. Also, we have bulk pickup, and that goes every Tuesday, scheduled through the inspector's office, not individually charged. Yard debris pickup, 6 weeks in the fall and 6 weeks in the spring. Again, not individually charged. And household hazardous waste collection days that we have 4 per year. Estimated cost for that is about $80,000. Now, some items are individually charged for: tires, computers. You have, and I forget a few others, but that helps offset the cost of the $80,000 per year. All right. So as a committee, we came up with, and we worked it out. There's 3 options that we have here as a town. And these are the major options: the contract collections, independent contracting, or municipality collection itself. So to go over a contract collection option, this is option number 1. It's basically it's the same concept we have already with our current collection process. Obviously, and I'll go into detail when it comes to pros and cons and costs and funding. Some items like bulk pickup and stuff like that are provided at no charge to the residents whatsoever. We are, as a committee, recommended if the town council decides this is the path they want to go, that they should start about 36 months or March of 2021. They should start talking about this and having discussions. This is the way they want to go. If they decide that route, then we're talking about 24 months, 18 to 24 months before the end of the current Casella contract. Some pros and cons that we do have that we saw, and this is not encompassing everything, but some of the highlighted ones. The pros: infrastructure is already in place. We already have the toters. We already have a hauler, and they already have their vehicles to pick up our trash and our recycling. Shouldn't be any delay in the services as long as the contract and scheduling is in place. Now, I put some asterisks next to here on the pros and cons when it comes to new haulers, needs versus wants. You know, when we talk about new haulers, that's cost the town more money if we decide that's the route we want to go with a new independent hauler, be it waste management, the buff, or whoever it may be. But each of those trucks costs about $375,000 a piece. And when I talk about needs and once. All depends on what type of contract the town manager, town council negotiates with the new hauler or the old hauler whatsoever. It could be bulk pickup, it could be white goods, it could be hazardous waste days to yard waste. Now, some of the cons though, the funding source, I put this, well, actually, we put the funding source in here because the amount of money it's actually a cost to town. The town people have to realize at this point in time, it's going to come out of our pockets somehow or some way. It all depends on the funding source that we partake in. Another con is the fact that if you go through contract collection, there is a possibility of residents opting out. So if they opt out, they could hire their own, but it depends on the funding source. So if you're going to do taxes, straight taxes, they may opt out of, let's just say, utilizing Casella, who would be our contractor. But if that happens, they're still paying the taxes, but then now they're going to pay a little bit more out of their own pocket because they decided to go to some other type of contractor. Again, cons, new hauler. Again, these trucks can go up to $375,000 a piece. And again, needs versus wants. What does the town need and what does the town want? Let's see if we can negotiate it from that point on. All right. So the next few slides talks about the costs. So based on 2024 estimates, right now we're talking about $1.2 to $1.6 million, but it can go as high as $2.65 million. And the reason why we put this in here is, let's just say the average growth of, or the average inflation goes between 2 to 5%. Well, if we add 5% to that $1.6 million, that could be another $320,000 coming out of taxpayer funds or pockets. So it is expensive to start this thing off. And I just want to make sure the residents and town council was aware of the cost for doing this. Now, as far as more costs, depending on the following, the needs versus the wants, the more we want, the more we decide we actually need and want, the more money is going to come out of our pockets. And let's not forget about the tipping fees. Tipping fees can go right now, I think Massachusetts average is about $100 per ton. But I just recently read last couple of days, I think it's going up to about $113 per ton. So it is increasing as we go along. All right, continue on. Request for proposals based on variables, which will or may have to include. So obviously, weekly trash pickups, recycling pickups, municipality pickup, all that stuff is required. Bulk yard waste, depending on the negotiations of the town manager and the town council. These are added costs to it. Hazardous waste day. Maybe the town would like to do their own hazardous waste day instead of contracting that out through some other source. We've seen where other towns have made a little bit of profit on these hazardous waste days, but at the same time, you're talking about adding more personnel to do this. Also, what about white goods or appliances, we call them? These are added costs to this contract collection option. All right. One thing I want to add on the last slide was the fact that, excuse me for a minute. Okay, on the last slide that I just showed you a few seconds ago, I want to add in there that they're doing this contract collection by Mass General Law or by state law. There is no bid process for it. So the town manager or the town council can decide that he or she would like to work with the current collector, or they may go out to bid. Obviously, the committee thought about this long and hard, and I know a lot of us talked about it as far as if the bidding process may lower the cost to the taxpayer. All right. All right. Talk about funding real quick. We talked about the cost. We talked about the option. Now we talk about the funding. These funding options are to the town council to have an understanding. So let's just say we don't do anything we, as a town council, we decided what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add this to the town budget. That's a 5 to 8% increase in our taxes. Obviously, our levy doesn't, right now at this point in time, doesn't fit that cost. So you're looking at a possible override. And if you're going to do an override, you may want to have different courses of action how to pay for this. Because if you go to the ballot, let's say June 2021 with a question, and the residents decide that they're not going to vote on this because it is required, because it's going to go over the tax levy, you know, you're going to have to possibly have a second option. Just a reminder that April 1st, 2024 is now becomes the town and the residents' responsibility for the trash pickup, no longer Casella's. And let's just say we do this and we say we're going to add 5 to 8% increases in taxes. That means everybody's required to participate. So that means even if I wanted to go to another service, it's still coming out of my pocket. How do you remedy this? You can take 5 to 8% cut out of your taxes. Sorry, out of our budget, but I just don't see that happening. And based on talking with the assessor, it's quite a big pill to swallow. Also, some other costs that are under funding sources that we can take a look at is utilize the subscription or enterprise funds, or allowing the residents may go to another hauler. And if they go to another hauler, we may lose 10-20% of our residents to another hauler. All right, continue on with the funding. Help offset the cost of the contract collection. We've looked at a transfer station, pay as you throw, where we like to keep the bags if we were to purchase bags as a town under $4. Actually, I've seen some towns, we've seen some towns where they go from $1 to $2 per bag. In some cases, the first 10 bags are free, the first 5 bags are free, and then if you have to come back for more, you have to pay for them. Another way to go about lowering this or funding this source is also to go with other towns, making more of a regional contract. The town of Charlton reached out to me through the chair, I would say about a year ago, right before COVID kicked in, and they're working on the same process right now, and they wanted to see what we're doing. I have not talked to them since I would say June, but I do know their contract, I believe, ends in 2023. So we can turn that into a regional contract if possible. But again, there's Charlton ends in 2023. I do know Councilor Marchetti talked about adding some funds to our capital projects budget, putting money away per year to help offset some of the costs as well, if at all possible. So these are some of the ways that we can offset the costs for funding for this option. All right. Before I continue, is there anybody that has any questions whatsoever? I'm going to try to scroll down. Am I going too fast? I'm trying to speed it up, but be thorough as possible. All right. Next option number 2 is independent contracting. So if you go independent contract, it's just basically saying Dave Adams is going to go out and hire on a contractor to pick up my trash, and I'm going to be responsible for it. So the town is no longer responsible for the residential curbside collection come April 1st of 2024. And one thing we as a committee would recommend is if the town decided this is the path that they want to go on, they need to educate the residents, and you're talking probably a year or so out to constantly educate them about what their requirements are, what the bylaws are, to understand that we may have an uptick in illegal dumping. We may have to hire some extra personnel to monitor this. But to go on, single and multifamily owners will be responsible for hiring their own haulers. Now, that being said, taxpayers or the town is going to be responsible for contracting haulers for municipality facilities. That includes school. So the taxpayer is going to have to fund some of this. So we're not all out of the woods yet. But as far as when it comes to municipality building, the taxpayer will have to fund. All right, it's pros and cons. So some of the pros, again, they're not all encompassing. Limited town involvement is required. Now they can currently utilize an employee in the inspector's office to oversee illegal dumping or may have you. But again, wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see a requirement to hire somebody else to offset that issue. The town, through the town manager, can attempt to negotiate a lower price. Let's say, we have 62 or 6,500 residents for trash pickup, and maybe the town manager can work with Waste Management or Casella or whoever it may be and try to lower the prices if we can guarantee that 3,000 residents are going to go with their business. Some of the cons, multiple haulers on our roads. Not that we don't have problems with our roads, but we're going to add more to based on if residents go with 4 or 5, 6 different haulers. Those will be going through our towns. The only thing that we really can do is try to permit these vehicles the best we can to, keep that under control. And we possibly can see an increase in illegal dumping. I will note that we already have a problem with illegal dumping, and we have our trash picked up for free. We have bulk pickup for free. We have hazardous waste day that we can go right down the road and have it dumped, unless you're dropping off a tire or a computer. You don't have to pay for any of that. It comes right through, but we already have that problem. So we as a committee foreseeing that there may be some illegal dumping or increase in illegal dumping because of this. So costs. I do have here $105 to $140, but I've seen as far as independent contractors in the area for picking up their waste. I've seen them as low as $90. That depends on if you're a family who decides bi-weekly you're going to have your trash and your recycling picked up. Obviously less time, the less money it's going to be, but on average it's about $105 to $140 per quarter to pick up waste and recycling. That does not include any type of bulk pickup. It does not include any type of hazardous waste. It doesn't include yard waste or anything like that. All that comes with a price. So we've seen, we've actually searched a couple of towns. We've received some of their price ranges for bulk pickup. We've talked to some haulers. They've given us the prices of their bulk pickup, and talk about $35 to $90 depending on what it may be, if it's yard waste or just a regular bulk pickup, 40 pounds or less. White goods, you're talking about your appliances. And that being said, we have to utilize a current employee that's to enforce the solid waste bylaw, and that's going to cost between $45,000 to $55,000 per year, plus benefits, if they were to have to hire somebody else on. So we talked about the cost, we talked about this option. Now let's talk about the funding. Obviously, single multifamily owners will be financially responsible. Now, the town will be financially responsible for municipality facilities, and that's estimated between $67,000 to $70,000 per year. And don't mind you, of a 2 to 5% increase per year. So that's going to go up, and that's coming straight from taxpayers, from our taxes. Town leadership may attempt to negotiate a price with the hauler, and it all depends on the volume of customers they may have. So we can try to do our part on that end, but this really, the independent contracting is a way of showing that the town is kind of leaving in the hands of the the residents and businesses with possibly very little oversight by the town. And the next one, this is the third one. Obviously, it's municipality collection option. So it's exactly what it means. Town owns it, is responsible for it, and manages it. Town should start this process about 36 months before the end of Casella contract, so March 2021, that's right around the corner. Again, got to move pretty quickly if we're going to do anything like this. 3 years sounds like a lot of time, but it actually isn't. One thing that the committee and the council was applauded for was actually thinking outside the box and starting this process early, because 2 years has almost gone by already since the negotiation with Casella, and we have pretty much come March, we're going to have 36 months left. So some pros and cons for the municipality collection. Town has complete control. It can apply for different types of grants, sustainability materials recovery program, but this doesn't cover the costs. This is more for specific items from could be computers, electronics, or anything like that. So it's very little compared to the ultimate cost of how much this would cost the taxpayers. Cons. So obviously I put cost there, or we put cost there. It's probably the most expensive out of all the three options. We have the contract disposal site, hire multiple personnel, purchase housing and for this equipment that we buy, and continued maintenance on this equipment that we do buy. Have to take into consideration yard, hazardous waste, and bulk pickup. All these things that we have right now that we're taking advantage of for so long. So this is another part of this option. Obviously, you're going to have to readjust a little bit of DPW's organization and equipment for the curbside operations. You know, we're talking about costs here, increase in director's pay because more responsibility is now on the director of the DPW. Hiring a manager, you're talking about 72,000 plus benefits. Self-explanatory all the way down. Hire one maintenance personnel, hire at least 5 new personnel, purchase 3 trash trucks at $375 a piece. And you're probably gonna have to rotate those trash trucks. I believe Casella does it, and Waste Management does it every 10 years. If you're gonna do bulk pickup as a municipality, you're gonna have to purchase a truck or use one that we already have. And if we have to purchase a new truck, you're talking $70,000, $70,000 for that new truck. It can't be a small one. Hire at least 2 personnel to pick up the bulk. You know, talking about $35,000 or more plus the benefits. Build a facility to house the hauler. So based on DPW, Ms. Blakely's estimate, $250,000 or more to build a facility that's going to house 3 vehicles, not 2 or not 1, but possibly 3 vehicles. And those are going to have to be rotated out, like I said earlier. Maintain the facility. That's untold cost. Maintenance on the vehicles, untold cost, fuel costs. We don't know at this point in time. And pay for the tipping fees. Again, right now it's $100 per ton. Town of Southbridge puts out about 4,300 tons. That equals $430,000 per year. So, and again, 2 to 5% increase on tipping fees per year. It's going to just only go up from here at this point in time. All right. And we'll talk about the legal fees and all that kind of stuff. And town manager probably having to renegotiate the union contract with the DPW as well. See where I'm going to add here. Okay, all said and done, you know, talk about funding sources for this, you know, obviously a 5 to 8% increase in taxes to cover the $1.2 to $1.6 million or even more. And again, everybody's going to be required to participate. We're going to have, the town council is going to have to look at overrides or a debt exclusion where you're going to have to buy vehicles for a short period of time. But if we do an override, that's going to add into our taxes permanently. So it's quite a big adventure. And then also, if we're going to look at doing this, it's going to have to go on the ballot. And you're talking about June 2021 question. So that question is going to have to be built come March of 2021 to be on the ballot by June 2021. Overall, just the startup fee and all that is well over $2 million just to do a municipality collection option. All right. Some more offsetting costs. You know, 5 to 8% reduction of budget. And like I said earlier, when I sat down with the assessor, you're talking quite a bit of money, and I don't know where you're going to find that amount of money to offset that cost. Also, you have the transfer station. You can work on a pay-as-you-throw program through organizations like Waste Zero. you can apply for grants, but those grants aren't going to cover everything. It's still, most of that money is going to come right out of the taxpayer pocket. As Councilor Marquetti had mentioned earlier, possibly some money away to help offset some of the costs, which, yeah, if we're going to do that, that's not a bad idea. Or set up a enterprise fund where it's just like we have our water and sewer right now. So there's multiple ways to offset the costs for the or fund this option, but that's probably the most expensive. So it's well over $2 million to start up this option. So all in all, we took a vote as a committee on what we thought was probably the best for the town at this point in time. And all it is a recommendation to the town council. But the contracted collection is the number one thing that the number one option that we chose as a group. And you know, I will mention in here the municipality collection part was not even on the table. It was just too expensive and too cumbersome for this town to deal with. But contracted collection is number one. It completely resembles what we actually have right now. Obviously, through negotiations, we try to bring down the costs from bulk pickup to regular recycling to weekly pickup of our solid waste. Before I move on, is there any questions? Almost done, only a few more. Councilor Marquetti, did you have any questions at all? Or did you want to make any statements at all?
No, thank you. You're doing a really good job.
Okay, thank you. And Councilor Steve, did you have any questions or any comments before I move on? Did I miss something?
No, I think you pretty much hit it all. Thanks.
What about, okay, thank you. Mr. Pelletier, you're the subject matter expert I was talking about, so.
I'm just following. You're good.
Okay. All right. Next thing we want to talk about. So we gave you these options, and this is what the committee came up with as far as the number one option for the town, a recommendation to the town council. One thing that we mentioned quite a bit in here, and we talked extensively about, is a transfer station, and which would help offset some of the costs and the funding, or help with the funding of this. So the transfer station, it can supplement other options, be it the contracting to the municipality side. And again, that could be 10 to 20% of the residents. And if it's successful, it can actually go higher than that as far as utilizing a transfer station. It can be used to collect regular trash. This is kind of like what we have at the top of the hill, which is owned by Casella right now. It could be an area for recycles, bulk, yard, hazardous waste, and other items. I know quite a few of the counselors, and I think Mr. LaRochelle had visited some of the local transfer stations, along with Councilor Marquetti, myself, maybe a couple others. And they had a great program going on over there, where they actually, I believe it was in Dudley, they had they hired one full-time guy, one half part-time guy, and it was paying for itself. Actually, I believe Dudley, I think they were like an extra $10,000 per year they were able to put into maybe their general fund or some other type of fund, or even the transfer station fund. I will say this is, if we're going to look at doing a transfer station, we should start looking about now. And the reason why I say this is because we can utilize, Councilor Marquetti found this, and Ms. Dean, our CDBG coordinator, has done a lot of research for me, and we can utilize CDBG funds to offset the cost of this transfer station. Now, this transfer station can be just an individual town thing, or it can be, we can grow it into a regional transfer station itself. Some of the pros and cons for the transfer station, we already have one. It's at the top of the hill over there at the landfill. Or you could, the town council, through research and a feasibility study, can take a look at different other areas. I know Councilor Marquetti had brought up the current DPW site as well, for the large lot that they have back there. We could possibly lease or purchase that site that Casella owns right now, and it's already, I believe it already has the 21E, it's already site assigned, but I don't know how that process may work, but we have multiple options here. Obviously, the town made it very clear through the vote, they no longer want a landfill, but where a transfer station is basically being able to drop off your solid waste, your recycling, some other stuff, and it is transferred out of there. And it can pay for itself based on some of the other sites that we have seen through Central Mass. And you can do it through pay-as-you-throw or a permitting fee. And it's easy access for residents who can transport their own waste up there. Some of the cons, though, is obviously there's a maintenance improvement, tipping fees that's going to cost, limited access to some residents who can't bring their trash up there, and additional personnel to oversee the site. We're talking probably no more than 2 people to do this, but it is an option as well. And this all depends on if let's just say we purchase or we utilize a currently town-owned piece of property for a transfer site, then we're talking about we're talking about having to do our own feasibility study, the design, the construction, and all that kind of stuff. But we can also take a look at what Casella has, and we can lease that property or have Casella run it completely. One thing that I will say about that is to say we do work something out with Casella, they can also try to work something out with another town as well to make it not just a town-run transfer station. They're obviously a business that's trying to make money. Or a regional thing, but we don't know right now because Casella has not reached back out to us to let us know what the cost would be. All right, purchase site. So a feasibility study for a new site, it's about $5,000. The design would be $10,000 to $70,000. It all depends on the needs and wants of what we want to look at. When we went down to Dudley, I tell you, that was a smooth operation that they had, and it was moving along pretty well. Also, construction is approximately $100,000. Tipping fee is obviously $100 per ton. But I would say sit there, if you're taking 20% of that, you're looking at about 860 tons of the $4.3 million, 4,300 tons the town produces right now. Personnel hiring too, about 35,000, but you're also talking about benefits as well. As far as the lease site, what Casella has right now at the scale station, we reached out to Casella multiple times. They did say they were interested in providing a cost analysis for us for what we like to see, but we've never heard back from them. But we did reach out more. So also with the funding. So now we're taking a look at this. Some of the funding could be exclusion. The equipment sorry, sent notice. Override, and this is to consistently, if we were to utilize an override, this is constantly used for the maintenance and improvements of the site itself. All these 2 things, debt exclusion override, is a ballot question that has to go in front of the residents of our money away in our capital projects for certain things, just as we do with putting with vehicles for our certain departments and equipment. As far as an annual budget, it's less than 1%. Less than 1% will probably fit within our tax levy right now because we do have a cushion. I don't know how this year is going to go, but I think we had a cushion of about $700,000 in our tax levy that we did not impose on the residents of the town. And again, we can utilize an enterprise fund or subscription or pay-as-you-throw process or all 3. So these are different funding sources for it. And lastly, and as I mentioned before, we can also look at CDBG funds. And again, I want to thank the 2 individuals I previously mentioned for all the hard work that they did in finding this. So Ms. Dean did a lot of research for me and gave me some of this information here. So CDBG is based on the town being at 51%, low to moderate income. The town of Southbridge is about 60% right now. Now, if we were to take just a site like the DPW site and say we wanted to build a transfer station there, would take care of the feasibility study, acquiring the land if we had to purchase any more land, design and the build of the transfer station.
We seem to be losing you.
Sorry, somebody asked a question.
No, I kind of lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, we were losing you for a minute there.
Oh, where did I stop?
I don't even remember, but go ahead.
All right. So the timeline. So if we're to utilize it and we want that transfer station to open in March of 2024, April 2024, fiscal year 2021 feasibility study and design could possibly happen. But we need to know, the CDBG coordinator would need to know ASAP, because that would be part of the application that will be put in March of 2021. Those funds will be utilized by calendar year 2022. Then the following year, fiscal year 22 CDBG application could add in there the design and acquire the land. And that money have to be used by December 2023. And then fiscal year 23. The transfer station, and that would take us up to the ends to actually build end of December 2024. You still hear me?
You're fading in and out, so you keep breaking up. So
I'm sorry about that, guys. I don't know. All right. So what I will do is I will send this PowerPoint to all the counselors and the town manager to review. I will say that this is obviously going to be left in the hands of the town council, the town manager, and some of the department heads to do some more research as far as what we're looking at and what subcommittee it may end up going to. I don't know if you heard me earlier. I will send it to the town councilors. I just want to say thank you to, again, the chair and all the counselors and the residents that partook in this process. It was a long time coming. I know we worked this out because at this period of time, because the new town manager took hold, and we wanted to make sure that he was properly briefed as well. And to close this thing out, is there any questions or?
All right, any questions? I know I lost Council Adams. Any questions from anybody? Council Steves, go ahead.
First of all, is Meg on this call? I don't see her, but it's hard to tell anybody at the moment. I was curious. First of all, I want to say thank you, Dave, for doing all of that, putting all of that together. I thought that the stuff that you pulled out that from Peg about the CDBG funds is really encouraging. Actually, I was wondering if she was on, or we'll need to find out anyway. What kind of funding limits there are from CDBG for these kinds of projects? But that would be a really helpful way to if we can do it right, to avoid having to do debt exclusions for at least some of it anyway. That would be nice.
What's that?
I wanted to say is that that either way, whatever option we take, one of the things I think we also need to double into our planning process is a strong effort to encourage people for conservation, because if we have less consumption, there's less trash and therefore less cost for the town as a whole. So anything we can go along that route would be really beneficial. Other than that, thank you. It was a good presentation, Dave. Thanks for pulling it all together from all of our discussions. And
didn't get anything you just said, but it must have been nice. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Council Lazo, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick second. Dave, job well done. The Curbside Advisory Committee is to be commended. the document that's in front of us is a starting point, and I think that the town council and the manager has to move forward. Don't let this die on the vine, because as Dave said earlier, 3 years is gonna go by like you blink your eyes and all of a sudden it's upon us. I think the timing and the execution of this is gonna be very important, but job well done, Dave.
Thank you, Council Lazo. Any other councilors? Okay, so again, thank you, Council Adams,
Thank
and
you,
your
Council Love. Appreciate it.
council to all the councilors, Council Marquetti, Council Adams, Council Steves, Mr. Pelletier, and was Mr. Larishow on your group as well? I believe Mr. Larishow. Thank you all for the work. As we stated earlier, somebody asked or commended, as Councilor Adams said, commended the council for being proactive in going at this 5 years out and not waiting and doing knee-jerk reactions.
Mr. Buxton and Mr. Sling.
Thank you. I think Council Adams has a delay in his feed, but we took an aggressive approach, and I think Council Lazo, we will continue to take that aggressive approach to make sure that we get this so that when that contract ends, there's no lagging coverage, and it's not a surprise to anybody what the finances may be. It is going to be a difficult process, and I have faith in working with the council and the town manager to bring that forward. So we'll accept your report, Council Adams, and then we will talk with the town manager, see what subcommittee it will go to. My thought is I think we should have some community outreach as well to hear from residents about this presentation, get it out on the website and everything, and get it out to people so that they can digest it a little bit, and we'll continue to work on it. But thank you very much to your group. Thank you. Anything further on this item? Okay, seeing none. I was going to do a third presentation tonight, but I kicked it off to next week's. I'm glad I did. Go to the next meeting. Just to circle back to my announcement, I neglected, I apologize. Just to the council, we will be having a special town council meeting on November 30th.
Thank you.
That will be a public hearing, as well as a special town council meeting on a tax classification. Again, tax classification public hearing will be first with Will Canoia with a public hearing, and then the special town council meeting. Council Steves, do you have a question on that?
Yeah, actually, I was not about that, but it's about public hearings. Have we got a public hearing yet for the planning board, the new zoning changes? Has that been set up yet?
My understanding, they had a proposed date of November 18th. I just got to clarify that went forward with that date or not.
Okay.
I know Eric was working on that.
Okay.
So November 30th for tax classification. That was the date given when it has to be completed and what the town could get forward. I move on to citizens forum, agenda item 9. Is there anybody out there that wishes to address the council? I think everybody else is on the agenda or councilors, so I don't see anybody that is called in or is present. Okay. Item 10, motion vote. I think Councilor Adams stepped away from his desk, so I am going to bypass item 10 until Councilor Adams returns because he's part of that one. So I'll move to 11, vote to confirm the appointment of Martina Shea to the General Government Subcommittee effective immediately through July 31st, 2021. Until another member is appointed pending completion of the state ethics training. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a motion by Councilor Steve, second by Councilor Ryan. Councilor Steves?
Yes, that obviously went to our committee and was unanimously recommended. I mean, Martina has been involved in town affairs in a whole bunch of different ways. She was in EHS for a while, and she mentioned that she thought that because Jackie had been the citizen member on our committee for a while, she thought it was a good idea to have somebody that was involved with the schools and school committee also kind of play a role on GenGov to keep the communication going. And I think basically we agreed. So we recommended it unanimously.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Martina, you have anything you want to say, or are you good?
I'm good.
Thank you. Well, thank you for stepping up on this subcommittee. We appreciate it. Roll call?
Counselor Catrona,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti,
Yes.
Counselor Ryan,
100% yes.
Counselor Steves,
Yes.
and Counselor Adams.
We'll just put him as 10. Item 12, motion carries. We'll put him as abstain right now, Counselor, okay? He's there, I'm not sure what it is.
Got it.
Or present, just mark him as present. I think that would be a better course, present. Item 12, vote to confirm the appointment of Tracy Price to the trustees of Soldiers, Sailors, Marines, and Airmen Memorial Board effective immediately through June 30th, 2022 to fill a 2-year vacancy due to a member resignation and pending completion of the state ethics training. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Counselor Adams, are you still there? No? Tracy,
No.
you're on line, right?
Yes.
All right, so Tracy, you're part of the VFW Post Veterans Council. I know Counselor Adams introduced you, I think, at that meeting. So did this go to General Gov, Counselor Steve?
Yeah, it did. We recommended it unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Anything else you want to add, Tracy?
No, I just looking forward to working with everybody and getting it done.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti,
Yes.
Counselor Ryan,
Yes.
Counselor Steves,
Yes.
Counselor Adams, are you back? Counselor Catrona,
Yes.
okay.
Motion carried. Item 13, vote to accept the grant. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you for stepping up on that. And we look forward to your service there. I know Counselor Adams had brought up at the last meeting a lot of work that the board is going to be doing. So we look forward to your participation in that board and everything else that you do for the town. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Item 13, vote to accept a grant from the Center for Tech and Civic Life for the amount of $12,620 to be used exclusively for the public purpose of planning and operational safe and secure election administration in the town of Southbridge in 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
A motion by Councilor Steve, second by Councilor Ryan. I guess there's a grant. Is this going to speak to this? Councilor Steves, go ahead.
Yep, that was at our subcommittee. We voted 3-0 with Councilor Marquetti abstaining. It's what's going on here is that the town clerk applied for the grant because the election requires more election workers and police presence due to the pandemic and a variety of other things that are going on right now, as you know. She said that she anticipated the costs will be higher than they were in 2016. So some of this grant money will help go to fund some of those issues. I don't know if Shane is still on the call, but we had talked a little bit about the issues of why we need some extra police officers. And if you saw your packet, he had an extensive memo on that particular issue. And that noted that he's requesting the numbers that were actually that he had back in 2016, if I read it correctly. So this is simply an issue of that'll make things a lot easier and take a little of the extra cost burden off of the town clerk's office.
Yeah, the chief is here. Chief.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I mean, I sent out the memo. I'll be happy to elaborate on it. I just want to say, Madam Clerk just got off this call. She's going to be up at 4:15 in the morning to start the whole election process, and she'll probably be there till midnight. So I told her I'd handle or field any questions from the council. So I'm just here to answer any questions, sir. That's all.
Any other questions? Councilor Marquetti?
I don't recall abstaining on this. I have no problem with this whatsoever. Thank you.
Okay, I was actually kind of surprised that I saw that in the minutes because I don't recall you doing it either. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Councilor Ryan?
I remember the reason that was presented at the time for Councilor Marquetti abstaining was because his wife was a poll worker.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. That's right.
You're right. Thank you, Jackie.
No problem.
Great, Councilor Ryan. Any other discussion? All right, Chief, hopefully we'll have a nice smooth day tomorrow. Appreciate it.
You and me both.
Roll call. Yeah, roll call.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes,
Counselor Marquetti,
I guess I'll abstain. Thank you.
Counselor Ryan,
Yes.
Counselor Steves,
Yes.
Counselor Adams.
He sent a message, he's logging on a different device.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, examining issues.
Counselor Catrona
Yes.
and Counselor Daniel.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mary, when you do the minutes, just reflect in those minutes that Councilor Adams was computer issues for each of those votes and not
Okay.
present for that.
Will do.
Thank you. Item 14, vote to approve to exclude Section 12 pouring licenses from 2021 licensing fee renewals due to COVID-19. This would be a total of $19,600 in lost revenues to the town. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Councilor Catrona, second by Councilor Steves. Councilor Steves, let's go to your subcommittee.
Yes, it did, Mr. Chairman. I know we had a fairly extensive discussion on this one. We had a couple of call-ins from people who have liquor licenses and run bars in town, and Councilor Lazo had spoke on it extensively. As we know, he runs one too. And the town manager talked about what was going on with the liquor licensing board at the time and how they had gone through their process to raise these issues about the fact that over the last year or so, because of the COVID issues, so many of these bars have had to close and have had basically no money coming in. So this is a concern about simply allowing the bar owners to have that little extra bit of, I mean, it's $1,000 or so per license, or depending which license you're talking about here. There are concerns about just simply being able to make ends meet and be able to, have a little bit of extra money when they're not, in some cases, not doing any business at all because they're completely closed. And it made a lot of sense to us. I think we voted it unanimously to recommend it. And I personally think it makes a lot of sense. Just in general, I remember part of the discussion was also looking at some of the other potential licenses and inspection fees and so forth for businesses that are essentially not in business right now, but they would like to stay in business when this ends and reopen if possible. So obviously it's in the town's best interest, I think, to do this and maybe to look at some of these other issues, which are a little bit beyond the scope of this particular agenda item. But I remember we talked about that. So I don't know if the town manager has had a chance to look into any of those issues. But as I said, we recommended it unanimously.
Thank you. Mr. Town Manager, do you have anything to add?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I did speak with the ABCC on a couple of issues after the fact. And really what my input would be is really to, notwithstanding the issue before us, I wrote to the liquor licensing board that I could be on their agenda, because I really think that we need to take a broader look at how we're working with our license classifications to look at, for purposes of economic development, to look at getting additional special legislation licenses and target them to some of the zones that we're looking at, which would be part of these new overlay districts, as well as some areas in town that are lacking any restaurants, maybe some of the areas on Main Street. But that would be part of enticing people in for economic development. And that was the bulk of my conversation, also to deal with some of the issues that were raised at the Gen Gov subcommittee meeting. The only concerns that I had about this, and some of them came up too at the Gen Gov subcommittee meeting, was there were some, at least the caller said, well, they would like it if we could waive these particular fees, but then there was additional fees. And one of the concerns that I had was if we start waiving some fees for a certain segment, albeit ones that haven't opened at all, what would other people who partially opened or didn't make the full complement of fees and services that they wanted with their own business? I mean, there are some on this list of Section 12 licenses that are opening and are working to the extent they can under the reopening plan to generate revenue, and some aren't. And I know Ms. Clemens during the discussion pointed that out. So my concern is, does this open the door for us to have to consider other licensees within the town that want to come forward? There was a question about entertainment licenses and other types of licenses by one of the license holders here. And then would you have other folks that come through saying that COVID is somehow impacting my business and I would like, my life? So that was a concern from my conversations with the finance director and just my own concerns. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other discussion from any other councilors on this item? Council Adams?
Thank you. First of all, apologize, Mr. Chair. I finally think I fixed it, but I'm on my phone now. So I did have a question, a couple. Is it a requirement to come to the town council to take this vote, or can't the liquor board license, or did I miss it? Liquor board license or committee, can't they make that decision themselves?
I don't know the answer to that, Mr. Town Manager.
I believe, my understanding is the liquor board is the liquor licensing authority, the local licensing authority, and I believe that they should be able to take that. And I think they were coming really to look for the council's recommendation. At least that's my interpretation of what they're doing here. I don't know if anybody is on the line from the liquor licensing board or not.
Councilor Marquetti?
I think that the answer to that, I think, is in the town charter.
Yep.
Or it may be the bylaws. One of the others. I think I looked into that too, because I had the same question. And I think when it comes to the license itself, it has to go through the town council.
Councilor Lazo, did you have something?
Yeah, just in general, not specifically the liquor licenses, but the fee system that's put forward to the town of Southbridge is done by the town council. There are recommendations from the different boards and commissions on whether it be a building permit or other permits that we have in fees. And they've always been set, to my knowledge, always been set final say by the Supreme Board, which is the town council, which controls the tax rate, the finances, and all sorts of fees.
Councilor
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just and Councilor Laws is probably right, but I know on the Board of Health, when I sat there, we voted on our own fees, and it only went to the town council for not recommendation, but just through a courtesy process to see what they had to say. So that's why I'm trying to figure out which one is the authority at this point in time to. I understand that, and Councilor Marquetti is correct. There, as far as the licensing is concerned, that's the liquor board's responsibility. But I'm not really sure about these fees. I'm not trying to make this expand out any longer. But if the liquor board came to us just for our guidance and what we thought about it, that's fine. But they're coming to us to go ahead and make that decision, which I guess we'll have to make. But I just thought the liquor board is responsible for doing all that. So that's all I have right now.
Anybody else? So, I guess, I certainly understand the position of these license holders, and we have to have some compassion, and we do have to have compassion for the circumstances that placed them into it. And I thought that at that meeting when I watched, the micro enterprise grants were available as well. I guess, I did see that there's somebody asked about waiving some of the fees from this year. I wouldn't be in favor of that because, that was already set in the budget. But next year, I'm a little torn because I do feel for them, but the recommendation was to move forward so that the cost impact mean, these business owners still own property, so they're still responsible for their property taxes and all that. So I think we have to have some kind of balance in that as well. So that's my point. Is there any comments that either Council Lazo or Council Dow would like to make before we take this vote in public? I'm just saying, you are liquor license owners. Do you want to make a statement about your participation in this meeting, because it is a public meeting, that you wish to make, not relative to the item, but if you know what I mean? Councilor Lazo?
I'd just like to say, I commend the liquor licensing board. In theory, if you do not use something, why would you pay for something? And in this case here, I thought the thought process was in line with common sense. On the revenue side, I understand in the process of whose job is it to raise a fee or not to raise a fee. I have to say, I agree it was the powers of the charter are in the charter, powers of the council are in the charter, and I'm sure that we could look that over. But this here, I thought it was the council's job. I will be abstaining because I do have a liquor license, but because you can't be master and server, it would be a direct conflict. But the compassion, the town's hurting and the businesses are hurting. I mean, there is no money coming in, nothing but bills are coming in. So I just thought it was a mere pittance to the amount of money that it takes to even keep things floating, keep the electric on, keep the heat in the buildings. We're going into winter time, we're not opened up. So I leave it up to the council. It's your call.
Okay, I guess my point, Councilor Lazo, was that you were going to abstain from any discussion because of the potential conflict of interest.
Right.
Was my point. So go ahead, Councilor Dow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Regarding the grant that was talking about, Dave, this is not, it doesn't work for the bar closed, only work for small business still running to keep them running. So we are not eligible for that grant. As a bar owners, we're not open at all. I asked Rosemary, she said we're not eligible for that. So I think, I feel, Mr. Councilor Lazo, I think it should be break for all the bars not opening, period. I know that's not, like you say, Councilor Jovan, you know, it's our responsibility to pay the tax, and what we do, we pay our tax to keep the building in our names. The town can't foreclosure on it. We do pay electric, heat, water, sewer, either when we close. So we asking the town for a little bit of mercy, just a small breaks. We're asking, I don't think we're asking too much. What we've been given the town in the past regarding tax, businesses, hiring people from town, and we work with the town much as we can. So I think we should have a little breaks regarding the liquor fee. And I'm gonna say the same thing, Councilor Lazo say, I'm gonna abstain regarding I own 2 liquor licenses. Thank you.
Mr. Steves. Go ahead, Councilor Steves.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to comment on the fact that we were talking about the who has authority a few minutes ago, and I looked up Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 12, very specifically states the local licensing authorities may determine in the first instance when originally issuing and upon each annual renewal of licenses under this section, the amount of the license fee. And then it goes on extensively after that. But I just thought that was the relevant part. So technically, I think the liquor board does have the legal authority to do this.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion?
Well, yeah,
Adams?
thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I got it. I'm in favor as well as far as forgiving this, but I just want to make sure we're doing this right. If we have to change that motion to send it back to the liquor board with our own recommendation, and then they make the ultimate decision on that. Am I correct on that? Or, you know, I don't want to take their authority away from them if they rate that authority, just like the Board of Health would do the same thing with their permitting fees.
Well, we could, it may be something that we need to get clarified a little bit more on the general law to make sure that, I understand Council Lazo's point that we are the people that set seasons, but they are a quasi judicial board, so they do have a separate authority than the town council. So if that is the case, we may want to just research that a little bit further to make sure that we're on right land. I mean, nothing stops us from postponing this to the next meeting just to make sure that we clarify that whether it has to go back or not. But Council Steves?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just thinking that I understand what Councilor Adams is saying and what you were just saying a second ago. I mean, I don't see any reason why it would really hurt anything tonight, just simply on the grounds that they have already approved it, I believe, anyway, if I'm not mistaken, and they're just simply asking for our concurrence anyway. So I think whether we vote either way, whichever way the board looks, I think it looks like we're leaning towards saying yes by what people are saying, and what was said at general government. But it seems to me that it doesn't hurt anything if we vote on it tonight. It's kind of advisory anyway.
Yeah, I don't want to go further in this. I think a lot of us are in the same agreement. But we do this here to the liquor board. What stops us from doing it at the Board of Health? I mean, if they sit there and say, we want $100 for, taking out a trash bag, whatever it may be, and then they turn around and say, I think it's a conflict of interest at this point in time. And though we're in agreement, a lot of us are in agreement. I just want to make sure that I have no problem postponing this to make sure legality-wise we're correct in this, and we're not taking the authority from the liquor board. That's all I'm saying. We open that door, then the next door opens up for us later on, and I think that's a bad precedent to set.
Any other discussion? Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Council Adams, are you going to do something?
No, I was just going to amend that motion or just make a motion to postpone this decision.
All right. There's a motion to postpone. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the postpone it? We'll just postpone it till the 16th. I just want to I don't see a harm in that. But any further discussion on that? There's a motion and a second to postpone. Roll call.
Councilor Jovan,
Yes.
Councilor Lazo,
Abstain?
Councilor Marquetti,
No.
Councilor Ryan,
No.
Councilor Steves,
No.
Councilor Adams,
Yes.
Councilor Catrona,
No.
Councilor Daniel,
Yes.
and Councilor Dow.
Abstain.
The motion fails. So there's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion on the main motion? Council Catrona.
Mr. Chairman, really quickly, I know these, as you stated earlier, the restaurants, the clubs, the bar owners in town, they're struggling for a one-time exclusion. I'm certainly in favor of voting with this evening. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Getting none, roll call.
Councilor Lazo,
Abstain?
Councilor Marquetti,
Yes.
Councilor Ryan,
Yes.
Councilor Steves,
Yes.
Councilor Adams,
No.
Councilor Catrona,
Yes.
Councilor Daniel,
No.
Councilor Dow,
Abstain.
and Councilor Jovan.
Yes. I believe that was, what do we have? 432? Correct?
Yes.
432?
Yep, that's correct.
All right. I was yield to my parliamentarian, Council Lazo, 9 members. Is that a majority of 4? Does that carry? Because there's 2 abstentions.
Good question. it is the majority that are present. I'm a little rusty when it comes to the charter if it's the majority of the number. I'm gonna say it's gonna pass because of the majority that are present on the vote.
Right.
Not the majority of 9. I could be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. But
I
a little
think
rusty.
you're right.
9
I think it's
present
the majority of present and voting.
and voting.
Present and
It's
voting.
it's not a majority, right?
It's the majority
Right.
present and voting.
Huh? It's
Yeah,
4-3-2.
we have to treat Scott and Joe as though they're not here. So
They abstained. They didn't recuse. So
Right.
they voted abstention. They should have recused themselves from this discussion. What I was trying to allude to. We'll check on that and we'll come back if we have to. Okay? Councilor Dow?
Thank you, sir. Through you. I'm new on the council, so I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do. If something specific belong to item, I'm in it, or I especially I own some liquor license, so I don't know how you guys are gonna look at it, but life is all learning. So thank you.
Yeah, we'll just we'll circle back and check with it. If we have to take some remedial action on that, we will. Item 15, vote to ratify the agreement between the town of Southbridge and Benefit Strategies as the flexible spending account administrator for the town employees. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Town Manager, are you going to take this, or is this Melissa, or Council Steves first? Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, that was at my subcommittee. Let me scroll down to my minutes here. So that was brought up by Melissa, and she had presented the proposals from Benefit Strategies and Health. Whoever the other guys were. Health Equity. Sorry. Okay. Anyway, so that she's recommending Benefit Strategies because they met the preferred criteria requested by the town and have the ability to transition within a short time frame and able to provide the services that the town wants, or that she wants to get done for enrollment services and so forth, for health insurance and for insurance in this case. And so we have some concerns here. I know there was a long discussion about this whole issue. There was some concerns about, the benefits and flexible spending accounts and how they work. Councilor Marchetti brought up that he had gone online and cited some bad reviews of the of Benefit Strategies. I noted that looking at the state's corporate database, that neither of them are actually registered in Massachusetts. She said that the Benefit Strategies is in New Hampshire. And that the plan allows for people to carry over up to $550 a year. Those terms are dictated by the IRS. There was some talk about whether or not somebody I don't remember who had mentioned that that in their particular experience with these kinds of things, there was an issue of there was concerns about being able to carry over money at all. So if they can do it with $550, I don't specifically remember her saying that, but it's in the minutes, so she must have. We had recommended it 3-1 with Councilor Marchetti opposed.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Town Manager, do you have anything to add?
What I would do, I see that Melissa Zawadsky, our treasurer collector, is online at this time. I would defer any questions to Melissa.
Thank you. Melissa, welcome. Do you have anything to add?
Yes, please, Counselor. I just wanted to clarify, this is not health insurance, but a flex plan benefit, which the town has offered to its employees for many years now. This is just a continuation of those services under a different provider. And while the concerns were raised about flex plan, which under the IRS code is a use it or lose it kind of benefit. So that means that if I elect to spend $1,000 on, say, my co-pays, my prescription eyeglasses, over-the-counter drugs or prescription drugs, and or dental care, things to that effect, I have to know that I will spend up to $1,000. And what Councilor Steves is referencing is that we have negotiated in this plan an option to have a $550 carryover into the next year. So should you not be able to spend the full 1,550 of that would be brought into your next year to use along with your next year's contributions, even if not to contribute in the second year. Additionally, this program also offers dependent care benefits, which does not operate on a use it or lose it program because this is under different guidance under the IRS. So many of our employees, especially the new school employees, have asked about this. We currently don't have any participation this year in that plan. However, it has been offered in the past, and that is to help pay for childcare while you're at work. And that all of these benefits are employees' money. We don't pay anything for these benefits, but the employees are allowed to contribute tax-free to these banks and then use them appropriately for their needs that they have planned for in the year. And additionally, I want to say that as far as the concerns about benefit strategies is an A+ rated on the Better Business Bureau, which I know Marquetti had found some negative reviews there. But I want to say that I looked at those reviews also, and I think there are about 38 of them. And by comparison to the volume of business that this particular business runs, having been the administrator for all of the GIC state program, number of employees using this benefit, that is a small number of complaints by comparison to the amount of customers that they ultimately have had over the decades that they've been in service.
There any questions? Council Lazo?
So Melissa, you feel comfortable with going forward on what's in front of us?
This is what I believe is the best choice for us. Unfortunately, our previous provider has chosen not to participate with us anymore. They chose not to participate in the quote process. And then by comparison to the other bidder that we had, this is a less expensive plan for the town. And they were very flexible in what making life easy for me as well. But mostly, I am fiscal conservative. And so when I saw that they were going to waive the fees and hold that for 3 years, that made me think that this was a zero risk to the town as far as out-of-pocket costs. We didn't have any administrative costs with them, and they were anxious to do business with us, as well as being highly recommended by peer communities.
Mr. Town Manager, you are on board on this? Your recommendation?
Based on the discussion that I've heard with the treasurer as well as our consultant, I myself have never used the flexible spending account, but I believe that in this particular instance that this plan, the one that's being offered by Benefit Strategies, appears to be the most viable and the one that was recommended. I also believe that GIC, the state-run plan, is also utilizing this. So based on what our consultant and our treasurer, the discussions we've had, I would concur with Ms. Zawadzki and recommend it.
Thank you.
Council Dow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To you, question. So it's 3-year waive the fee for the town of Southbridge. Is any fee for using that card to the employee?
Yes, so currently we have a fee with our current provider of $550 a month. This plan is slightly less expensive at $475 per month, and that fee is passed on to the employee just as it always has been in the past itself in the town of Southbridge.
Just a flat fee, or every time they're using that card is a fee for them?
It's a flat fee.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? Council Marquetti?
As I said at the subcommittee level, my wife had one of these flexible accounts, and she put a lot of money into it. And at the end of the year, she had to use it or she lost it. She had to start spending her money on things she didn't really need. Now, I know that they say that, well, you can roll it over now, but you still don't get to use that money on anything else. They don't give you a check back. You may roll it over, but it's still stuck in that account. You still have to use it for that purpose only. What I saw on some of the reviews for this company was that it was mostly customer service complaints and the fact that they couldn't get their money out of there. Whether it even rolled over or not, they still couldn't get their money out of there. And some of them were saying that if there was a bill from like 2018, it got rolled over, their account got rolled over into 2019. They could no longer use it on the bill from 2018. So all in all, it was just a customer service complaint. I'm not sure the other one is any better, but that's the only reason why I voted no. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. They can refuse the employee to have that service. They can deny it.
Absolutely. It's a completely voluntary option, and many people choose not to contribute a lot of money. You can contribute up to, I believe it's $27.50 is this year's max, but a lot of people only contribute a few $100s depending on what they have planned for themselves. So if I had a child who was going to get braces, I would probably contribute the max this year. But if I was just going to get a new pair of glasses and my glasses aren't very expensive, I might only put aside a $300 or $400. Just depends on your personal needs. A lot of people know what their medical needs are going to be for the year, and that's what it's really designed for. So most people, if they can choose year to year if they're going to participate, and then when they choose at the beginning of that year, they try and plan for, and we try and help them plan for what their costs are going to be. So for myself, like I didn't participate last year, but I probably will this year because I need new glasses and I know how much they're going to cost me.
So my question is, I can deny I don't want it, period. Like I don't want it at all.
That is true. No, you do not have to take it. It's completely voluntary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one quick question. To clarify, is there a minimum that you have to put into these accounts every year to keep it going?
So I don't believe there's a minimum. I know that I can't imagine you do anything less than $100, but I honestly don't know. But I do know that it is possible to contribute this year, have the $550 rollover to next year, and not contribute next year and still have that $550 available to you.
Okay, and to follow up that, I'm sorry, as I recall from what our Gen Gov meeting was, I think Denise Clements mentioned that, I don't know if it applies to this plan or the plan that she was familiar with, but that it could only be used until March, or can this be carried through the entire next year?
My understanding. Oh, please, Joe.
So the minimum, it depends on the vendor, but usually the minimum is $1.
Yeah, I'm not going to mention that.
Yeah, and most people contribute. A lot of people would wish they could contribute more than $27.50 because they have families and deductibles and what have you. But for your health plan, people would probably fund just the deductible as a minimum. And then to answer your question about rolling over the benefit, I'm not sure which plan. I believe her name was Denise. I'm not sure which plan she was on previously, but I can tell you that the rollover does not have a limit. So you can't, miss the window to spend it. So as Melissa mentioned, you can roll over $550 into the next plan year. And if you decide you don't really want to spend more than that, you don't have to fund anything additionally. So you can actually roll that into the next plan year without spending another dime. And then after that year goes by, you would have the opportunity to make a new election.
Okay, thank you. If for some reason they didn't spend that money, or they still had some of that $550 left at the end of the subsequent year, would that just roll over to continue rolling over?
Yes, it would.
Would, okay. Oops.
Any further discussion?
The plans have been changed. The IRS regulations have been, I would say, lightened up a little bit to make it less risky for participants to put their money in pre-tax benefit. But again, if people are not able to use the full benefit for prescriptions, medical costs, and glasses and braces, they can certainly buy over-the-counter items as well. There's a long list of items that the IRS allows people to spend, which ranges from, Tums to toothbrushes to Kleenex to, anything you can get at the drugstore pretty much. It's a very lengthy list. So the IRS has made it pretty difficult for people to lose their money. Also just mention, as a matter of fact, that the plan that the town is currently on with PBS, that plan renews on January 1st. And as Melissa mentioned, the vendor decided not to participate. So, we would just ask that we think of the 35 people who are enrolled in the plan and be able to continue that coverage for them to be able to have that employee benefit continue.
Thank you very much, Jill.
Thank you.
Councilor Dow?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One more question. It's any penalty, let's say if the employee didn't take the plan the first year or the second year and decide to take it the third year, is any penalty on them?
No, this plan is 100% voluntary, and every employee would have the opportunity to choose every single year as a brand new election. Just as they become eligible for health insurance, they're not required to take it, but they certainly can take it if they want to.
Thank you.
And I will say that a lot of our participants are not on our health insurance, but they do choose to participate in our flex plan because they have a different health insurance that has deductibles that they need to manage outside of the town. So this is something that we can offer to people who have chosen not to participate in our health plan.
Okay.
Steve, you all set?
One more quick question is also, if somebody exceeds the amount that they have set aside, can they add to it?
No, you cannot.
Can't.
You elect the amount at the beginning of the year, and that's how much it is. You can't increase it or decrease it in the middle of the year plan. So you have to sort of do some planning and know what your anticipated costs are.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Counselor Marquetti?
No.
Counselor Ryan?
Yes.
Counselor Steves?
Yes.
Counselor Adams?
Yes.
Counselor Catrona?
Yes.
Counselor Daniel?
Yes.
Counselor Dow?
Yes.
Counselor Jovan?
Yes.
And Counselor Lazo?
Councilor Lazo?
I think he's a yes.
You're muted, so.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Motion carries. Item 16, vote to amend section 6-201.1 license and fees, paragraph number 4, and section 6-201.11 nuisance and dangerous dog hearings, paragraph 1 to the keeping of pets bylaw. Hold 3 readings as recommended. There are no changes to the other sections of the bylaw. This is the third and final reading, November 2nd, 2020. Second reading was October 19th, 2020. First reading was October 5th, 2020. Specific paragraphs are in the 4th paragraph, where it says licensing period shall begin January 1st through March 31st of each year. All dog licenses expire March 31st of the next calendar year. Dog owners will renew their dog tags after March 31st or after 30 days from the date of rabies vaccination or after 30 days from the date of maturing to the age of 6 months shall pay a penalty of $10. The stricken out period part was the grace period after March 31st shall start on April 1st until April 30th that year with a penalty of $10. Minor change due to form. And 6-201.11 In the section, it said the town council shall investigate a cause to be investigated such complaint, including an examination under oath of the complainant at a public hearing in the municipality to determine whether the dog is a nuisance dog or a dangerous dog. All that was stricken out of that was the chairman because it really is the town council. So are there any questions, comments on this? Okay. Seeing none, that is the third and final reading. Item 17, vote to approve amendment to section 6-201.1 license and fees, paragraph number 4, and section 6-201.11 nuisance and dangerous dog hearings, paragraph 1 to the keeping of pets bylaws. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? All 3 readings have been conducted. Any discussion? None? Roll call.
Counselor Ryan,
Yes.
Counselor Steves,
Yes.
Counselor Adams,
Yes.
Counselor Catrona,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
and Counselor Marquetti.
Yes.
Motion carries. We're gonna go back to agenda item number 10. Now that Council Adams is back. Item 10, vote to proclaim August 7th annually as the Purple Heart Day and the town of Southbridge as a Purple Heart community. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Council Lazo moved it. Council Ryan seconded. Council Adams, I'll give you the floor. I know we discussed this at our last meeting and we were going to do this proclamation, but if you have a few words, if you want to state them, and then I'll read the proclamation for the town.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I appreciate the town council entertaining this proclamation today as a president of the Veterans Council. I tried to get Mr. Brian Willett to come on. He unfortunately had a campaign he had to go to this evening, but he's the state commander, military order of the Purple Heart. If the town council so approves this proclamation, this will go to the state level where we'll be added on to the list of multiple towns, growing towns that are now Purple Heart communities. Like I said last time, this is really about those unsung heroes that either gave the ultimate sacrifice or are walking around our town in civilian attire to this day that has physical wounds because of combat. And we do have a few, and I would just ask the town council to move forward with this. As I stated before, it is no cost to the town whatsoever. We would put the beautiful signs up with work with the DPW and the 4 entrances of our town. And I will post this on social media of what the sign looks like. But again, I just want to thank you for letting us entertain this, and thank you to the chair for doing chairman's chat where we introduced this Purple Heart community as well to the residents of our town. Thank you.
Are there any comments? Do you want me to read the proclamation first, or do you want to vote on it and then I'll read it to the community? Pleasure.
I'll just vote on it, and then if you want to read it, that's fine, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right. There's no other discussion. Roll call.
Counselor Steves,
Yes.
Counselor Adams,
Abstain.
Counselor Catrona,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti,
Yes.
and Counselor Ryan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Town of Southbridge, Mass. Proclamation, Purple Heart Community. Military Order of the Purple Heart. Whereas the people of Southbridge, Mass. Have great admiration and the utmost gratitude for all the citizens of our community who have selflessly served in the armed forces that has been vital in maintaining the freedom and the way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas citizens of our community have been killed in action while serving in the armed forces and have been posthumously awarded the Purple Heart for their ultimate sacrifice. And whereas citizens of our community have been awarded the Purple Heart for their bodily sacrifice of being wounded by the hand of the enemy while engaged in combat. Whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest American military decoration and was created as the badge of military merit, made of purple cloth in the shape of a heart with the word merit sewn upon it. On August 7th, 1782 in Newburgh, New York by General George Washington. then reestablished as the Purple Heart on February 22nd, 1932 by General Douglas MacArthur. And whereas the heritage it represents is sacred to those who know the price paid to wear the Purple Heart. And whereas August 7th is nationally recognized as Purple Heart Day. And now therefore be it proclaimed, we the Southbridge Town Council hereby proclaim Southbridge, Massachusetts, a Purple Heart community, honoring the service and sacrifice of those from our community who were awarded the Purple Heart while serving in our nation's war. And also be it proclaimed, the Southbridge, Massachusetts will recognize August 7th annually as Purple Heart Day and urge our citizens and organizations to display the American flag as well as the other public expressions of recognition of our Purple Heart recipients. And witness, therefore, the second day of November, 2020 by John D. Jovan Jr., Chairman of Southbridge Town Council. Thank you all.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Lazo?
Just a quick question to Councilor Adams. Councilor Adams, do you know how many residents have the Purple Heart?
No, I do not, Councilor Lazo. I will state that we do know of a few, and a lot of them don't even say anything. So that's the hard part is finding them. I will say that we are reaching out for a Veterans Day ceremony to any Purple Heart recipients, and I'll be posting that tomorrow with word of mouth to get as many Purple Heart recipients from the town of Southbridge out there as possible. That can be 1 or 10, I don't know. But I know a few in the last couple of years have passed away, personally.
I was just thinking maybe some of the businessmen in Southbridge could get together and put on a dinner for the Purple Heart recipients. If we knew who they were and how many they were, if we can talk about it in the future.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Lazo. Councilor's forum. Councilor Ryan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is Council's forum, correct?
It is, man.
Okay, sorry, I had lost a little bit of connection there. Just as you alluded to earlier, Chairman Jovan, I'm going to remind everyone to go out and make your voice heard tomorrow. If you haven't voted by mail or voted early, please go out and make your voice heard. It's going to be an important election. The polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Armory on Chestnut Street.
Thank you. Anything else, Councilor?
Nope, that's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to ask about Everett Street again. I know that I had talked with the town manager about doing something on Everett Street to cut down on the speeding. And I was thinking maybe one of those speeding recording devices up there is just to get it going. I know that you've got some other plans that you're talking about with the police chief, but I think the residents would actually like to see some action right away on that, because Everett Street is pretty tight road to go on with the cars on both sides, and some of the residents have called and complained about it. So just to get it going, something on there to record the speeding and trying to slow them down a little bit would be appreciated. Second of all, while we were talking about the benefit strategies, flexible spending account, a resident reminded me that a few years ago, the town of Southbridge had a discussion about the amount of money, the amount that the split is between the town and the town employees for their health insurance premium. And apparently it's at 60-40, and somewhere along the line, the town promised the employees that it would go to 65-35. And there was even a committee that was formed to talk about that. And so some of the employees were asking me, whatever happened to the 65-35 split? So I thought I would bring it up and just try to find out if we could maybe get some information about what happened with that. Because if that was indeed a promise made to the employees, then I think the town should consider keeping that promise. Also, I'd like to say that I did sit down with the town manager and the police chief, and we did talk about the police officers who recently resigned. And I just wanted to say to the town manager and the chief, I appreciated your candid discussion with me. I realize that you can't it's hard to talk about all these different things that go on with employees without them being there. So, but I did appreciate the honest answers, and I was satisfied with the answers that you provided with me. I did talk with one of the police officers, and he had nothing but praise, but for the police chief. So I just wanted to say that sometimes I will bring some things up that maybe you don't like, but if I think you've done a good job, I will also bring that up as well. So thank you very much for addressing that with me. Also, I wanted to say that I saw on the school's website that they have been able to get 1,100 Chromebooks for their students. So I thought that was great news. And they are also providing 400 Wi-Fi hotspots for all the students in town, and they're working on getting some more of those Wi-Fi hotspots. So I just thought that was good news, and we should share it with the residents. And finally, I agree. I hope everybody gets a chance to go and vote tomorrow. I know I will. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Councilor Catrona?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, just a couple quick things. I want to reach out. I think our police chief, Woodson, is still on the call. I want to thank him and his team that responded last night. I know we had without going into detail, Chief, we had a B&E about 2:30, 3 o'clock this morning. From dispatch to his police officers to Charlton, the state police chief, phenomenal job. The response time was so quick, and we appreciate it. And those men were in the woods for a long time, until the early morning of the hours. So thank you very much to you and your team. Job well done. And we appreciate it. Thank you and your team. For everyone, again, I'll repeat what's been said. Go out and vote tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Let your vote be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of quick points. First off, as far as election goes, I just want to remind people that there is a ballot question on the back side of the ballot, in case you haven't. So remember to turn it over if you haven't already voted. And the weather's supposed to be really nice, so there's no excuse for not going. It's supposed to be sunny in the mid-40s, which is a little chilly, but hey, it's better than what we had today. Anyway, also, I wanted to say that I've driven down Brentwood a few times since the work was done. It's nice. However, I wanted to point out, I don't know if Heather is on the call. I haven't seen her. But I did have a quick question about, it seems like there's a little bit of a lip between the existing pavement on either Morris Street or Lebanon Hill and any of the driveways and the road itself. So I don't know if that means that it needs another layer of pavement or not, but there's a little bit of a drop when you get into the Brentwood section. And I also noticed that there's a piles of the old, I think they're the things that you stick the manhole covers in that are just sitting on the side of the road, rusting. We probably should collect them, and I don't know if we can reuse them or if we can at least cash them in to get a little money back for them. But there's piles of them sitting a couple of places on the street there. Also, I guess maybe this is through you to the manager if Heather's not on, which she doesn't seem to be. Do you know what the time frame is for Marsh Ave? Because I know that the road has been clear, so it looks like it's ready for paving, and I assume that they're waiting for decent weather, which might be this weekend. So it might be that. But do you know any better than that?
Mr. Chairman, through you to the previous speaker, I do not have anything, but I'm taking a list of notes right now. Councilor Steves, and I will inquire. Usually rain is not conducive environment to paving. So if they're trying to get anything in, we may still get a few more warm days. I will definitely get you an answer, and I can CC the council.
Okay, because I know it's supposed to be in the 60s later this week, so that'll probably be ideal. And I guess the last question I had is through you, Mr. Chairman. Do you have any update of what's going on with the fire station committee?
We actually have a meeting Thursday night, and the other presentation that we were going to have forward was a fire station building committee presentation this evening. But given the other two presentations, I didn't think you all wanted to sit here till 11 o'clock at night. So, and in fairness to the two presentations, they deserved the time as well. So I didn't want to crowd the night. So
Okay.
yes, that will be coming up.
Okay, because I was curious because I was looking on the town's website. If you have a meeting on Thursday, it's not posted.
It was sent over to the town manager's office. It can be posted tomorrow in time for Thursday night, though. So
Okay, thanks.
okay.
That's all I had.
And that meeting is just basically the review our presentation to the council again. So follow-up presentation to the last one that we did a year ago. What's up, Dale?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I want to say thank you to the chief of police and the police for have the Halloween safe. All the kids, the town was, by the police safety, and the kids have fun. We have no issue, no call or complaint. I want to thank the chief and his team. And also I want to thank the fire department. Last few weeks, they're being busy, respond to a lot of fire and risking their life and put the fire down. And one more thing, I want to thank Mr. McCall. He's doing a great job, and he's respond to every question or any phone call, either from the council or other employee or other residents. He's not ignoring anybody. He's doing a great job. I want to thank him. And people, coronavirus is coming back. Be careful out there. Masks, sanitizers, be safe. And thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Council Lazo?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Council Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I wanted to make a quick comment on one of the votes I made tonight about the liquor licenses, and it wasn't that I didn't support waiving that fee. I did, but I don't. I felt at that point in time that the previous board that brought it to our attention has that authority, and I just didn't want to overstep our boundaries to set a precedence. That's my own personal view at that point. So I wanted to. I apologize for my Wi-Fi this evening. It's been year and a half coming to give this presentation, and lo and behold, technology slowed everything down. So, my apologies, and I'll get those presentations out to everybody, including the public as well. But again, I want to thank Councilor Marquetti and Councilor Steves and Mr. Splain, La Rochelle, Mr. Buxton, and Mr. Pelletier for all the hard work that you guys did over the last year and a half, and stepping up to the plate, and I really appreciate it. Without you guys, this wouldn't have been possible. I do want to state the VFW as the commander. We have a poppy drive on the 8th of November from 8 to 12 at Big Bunny. We also, the Veterans Day ceremony will be held at 11 o'clock on the 11th of November. We do ask the public, and I'll be posting this, that they stay far away as they can. Although we're in yellow, we don't want to spread any virus or jeopardize anybody's health here. So we're going to do this, and we'll do it well and professional. And I want to thank the town council for voting for the Purple Heart community, which we'll be presenting as well that day, Veterans Day. And lastly, I want to wish my brothers and sisters in the Marine Corps a happy 245th birthday on November 10th, 1775. We were founded in a bar, Tun Tavern, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I just want to wish everybody a happy birthday and be safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. Council Daniel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to say that I want to encourage everyone to get out and vote, but we haven't said where the vote is. If you're a first-time voter in town, it's at the community center, which is on the end of Chestnut Street. Head down Main Street toward the Rotary. Just before the Rotary, turn right onto Chestnut Street. Go all the way up to the end of the street, and you'll find the community center there. It's a former armory. Big building, brick building, lots of parking. Please get out the vote. Thank you. That's all I have. The next meeting, regularly scheduled meeting, is scheduled for Monday, November 16th, 2020 at 7 p.m.
Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Council Lazo, second by Council Catrona. Roll call.
Counselor Adams,
Yes.
Counselor Catrona,
Yes.
Counselor Daniel,
Yes.
Counselor Dow,
Yes.
Counselor Jovan,
Yes.
Counselor Lazo,
Yes.
Counselor Marquetti,
Yes.
Counselor Ryan,
Yes.
and Counselor Steves.
Yes. Night all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
This conference is no longer.